Welcome back. The fertilizer subsidy bill is expected to be over 2 lakh crore rupees for FY23. The fertilizer subsidy stood at 1.62 lakh crore rupees in the previous financial year. Prashant Nair caught up with Fertilisers Secretary Arun Singhal and began by asking about the government's roadmap to fertilizer subsidy and a lot more. Listen in.
I agree with you. Because of geopolitical considerations in the world and various factors, the subsidy amount has gone up, and it's always a challenge for the government to find funds. But it's a question of priorities. If farmers occupy the highest priority for the government, then the government will ensure that funds are made available. And that has been happening so far. Even though prices have gone up internationally, the government has chosen to increase the subsidy burden and not to burden farmers. So, as I said, the government is fully committed to ensure that sufficient, adequate supply of fertilizer is available to farmers, and it is available at reasonable rates. That commitment is there, and therefore that will translate into action on the funds front also. So I don't foresee any problems. We struggle all the time to reduce the subsidy burden. We try various things like improving the gas supply, the prices at which we purchase gas, or diversifying our sources of supply of fertilizers. So we keep on doing that. We keep on trying to reduce the subsidy burden. But whatever it takes will be provided by the government, because the government is fully committed that farmers should get fertilizer at reasonable rates.
Right. For this year, FY23, I mean, what is the, are there going to be any changes now from now up till the end of the year for the full year in change in assessment in terms of the total subsidy this year, fertilizer subsidy?
Supplementary demands have already been placed before the parliament. You are aware of that. But
yeah,
as I said, if there is a further requirement funds, we will be going to finance ministry. And we have been assured that whatever is required would be provided. It's very difficult to give a number right now because the prices of gas will fluctuate. We don't know what the prices are going to be in January, February and March. And urea, as you know, largely depends on the prices of gas. So we don't really know how much the subsidy burden is going to be. Similarly, the prices of potash and the prices of phosphatic fertilizers also keep on changing. So it's difficult to put a number to it. But as I said, whatever it takes, we'll provide that.
Got that, sir. For FY24, the expectation is that, the number should be meaningfully lower. Is that something we can go with? Any thoughts or any ballpark numbers you can give us? What is your sense? I know it's a volatile industry.
So the subsidy burden is very high. Yes, that is true. We certainly hope so. The subsidy burden is already quite high. As I said, we are working on several methods to reduce the subsidy burden. Several reforms are being talked about. But even if you leave aside all that, the prices of DAP have started cooling down. They had gone up to $920 per ton. Now they have come down to $720, $730. Similarly, the prices of urea have come down in the international market. Now we are getting in our tenders, we are getting a rate of $578 per ton. This rate also had gone up to $1,000 per ton. So prices are coming down, and that applies to phosphoric acid, rock phosphate, everything. So we do hope next year there will be a lesser subsidy burden. And the other important thing, of course, is that we have nano urea now, which is part of the supply chain. So next year, the manufacturing capacity of nano urea will go up. We plan to make about 17 crore bottles of nano urea, which are equivalent to roughly 75 lakh metric tons of urea. So that also would contribute to reducing the subsidy burden. We are hopeful for a substantial reduction. Yes.
No, I got that. And that is what I want to come to, which is this entire nano fertilizer, right? It's already been rolled out for urea. Can you just explain for our viewers, what is, how does this work? How is this different? The conversion from, bags to bottles. And, markets are also looking at this very keenly because the amount of subsidy you need to pay on these will come down quite a bit, right? Go on, sir.
That's right. That's right. You see, when you sprinkle fertilizer in a field, there's a lot of wastage. First of all, lots of it gets evaporated and doesn't go to the plant at all. Whatever goes to the plant also is only part of it is absorbed by the plant and part of it is wasted. So the efficiency of using a fertilizer in the conventional manner is very, very low. On the other hand, when you convert that into a nano fertilizer, whereby the surface area goes up many, many times, and this is used as a foliar spray on leaves of the plant, then it is absorbed directly by the plant from the leaves. So the efficiency of using nitrogen goes up many, many fold. So roughly, in very broad terms, I'm not being very technically scientific here, one bag of urea would translate into 100 bottles of nano urea. and each bottle of nano urea would be as effective as a bag of urea. So you can imagine the efficiency goes up about 100 times. Now if that happens, what is estimated by scientists is that about 2/3 of the entire consumption of urea can be replaced by nano urea. We are talking of 350 lakh metric tons of urea being consumed in the country today. So if out of that 200 lakh metric tons can be replaced by nano urea, for which we don't really need to provide any subsidy at all, obviously there's going to be a significant saving in terms of taxpayers' funds which are being used. And secondly, from the environmental point of view, it's very, very beneficial. You can imagine we have to manufacture 100 times less urea, so therefore the environmental impact would be much lower. And the problem of leaching and contamination of groundwater and degradation of soil also would be helped to a large extent. So it's a wonderful strategy to go forward. And I'm glad to tell you that on the same lines now Nano DAP also has been developed by IFCO and by Coromandel. Two companies have developed it. They have applied to the Agriculture Department for registration.
By the way, are you close to giving an approval for this, Nano DAP?
Yes, we are expecting it. As I said, by the next Kharif season, we should have it. It's been evaluated by a committee of experts in the Agriculture Ministry, and they are by and large satisfied. Field trials had been carried out earlier, so it's close to being approved now. Once it is approved, it will be out in the market.
Now, let's come to till then the input side of things. Prices of potash, ammonia, phosphoric acid, etc., have been very volatile. In terms of securing sourcing for these commodities, because we've seen a fair bit of geopolitical turmoil as well, what is the government strategy going to look like?
Our strategy is based on diversifying our sources and going for long-term MOUs with countries or companies. These MOUs are signed between companies of our country and their country, but we do facilitate them. So if we were to look at potash, for instance, the yearly requirement is 40 lakh metric tons. Against that, we have an agreement, long-term MOU, of 15 lakh metric tons with Canada now, Canpotex, about 7 lakh metric tons with Israel, 2.75 lakh metric tons with Jordan, 1.05 lakh metric tons with Germany. Now we have signed 7 lakh metric tons with Russia. If you add all this, it comes to about 35 lakh metric tons. So against a requirement of 40 lakh metric tons, we already have long-term MOUs for 35 lakh metric tons, and then of course we go in the market and purchase wherever it is available. Similarly, if you look at DAP or NPK or rock phosphate, phosphoric acid, we do have long-term contracts with many countries. So we diversify our sources and go for long-term MOUs, which give us a lot of comfort. They give a lot of comfort to the supplying company also because demand is assured. That is the strategy we are following. It is working well so far.
The other is gas supplies. I mean, the government has prioritized the fertilizer sector as one of the priority areas for gas. Is that, are there issues there there were some issues with availability, other sectors, of course, falling short of their requirements. Any thoughts you can offer here?
Yes, of course, gas is extremely critical for the fertilizer sector. If you look at the price of urea, 85 to 90% of the total price of urea is the price of gas only. So it entirely depends on the price of gas. And there's been a lot of volatility in the prices of gas also. Some of the long-term gas which was coming from Gazprom and sources in Russia has stopped coming because of this conflict which is going on. So gas prices and gas availability has been impacted. So we normally use 3 types of gas. One is called domestic gas, which is produced within the country. That normally is the cheapest gas. Then we have long-term contracts for supply of gas. They are the next higher in terms of cost. And finally, there's spot RLNG, which is normally the highest in cost. It varies quite a lot from $2 to $67. It keeps on varying. There's a lot of volatility in that. But normally, today it is coming at a higher price than even the long-term contracts. So the share of spot RLNG has gone up in our portfolio because long-term supply of gas has been impacted. So spot gas has gone up in our portfolio to about 25-26%. And that is an area in which we need to make savings. So we are working very hard on this.
All right, so those were some important lines coming in from the Fertiliser Secretary, talking about them not looking at any sort of subsidy on nano DAP. FY23 subsidy is quite high, but questions of priority is something that they will have answers to. So we will keep an eye out on snippets of these conversations playing to you through the day. But take a short break. On the other side, we discuss commodities. Manisha Gupta joins in with Colin Shah, who's the MD of Kama Jewelry.